What's up, everyone? I am Ernest Dove. This is the New York Mets Dove Report. Let's talk Syracuse Mets roster. Want to get into some of my thoughts, insider information, maybe some projections, talking about the strengths of the Syracuse Mets roster. But I also want to respectfully talk about some of the snubs. There's guys who belong in Syracuse, but I'll get into that later. Let's start off, go with some of the pitching. Obviously, we need to talk about the top prospects. Of course, Jonah Tong. Opening day, Jonah Tong had a lot of command issues in the first inning, second inning, started to dominate from the third and fourth inning, throwing all of his pitches now. Fastball, cutter, slider, changeup. Only a little bit of sliders, I believe, but there was a lot of throwing of the cutter, and he was getting some outs with the cutter. I know that a lot of the strikeouts still were coming from the changeup, the kind of the go-to pitch at this point, the Vulcan change. But really good sign that towards the end of this opening day start, Jonah Tong started throwing all five at some point during the inning. Keep an eye on that to see. Plus, of course, the overall pitch command that was really bad in the first inning, but looked pretty good for the rest of the game. We also have to come top prospects like Jack Wenninger, who I was talking about and projecting early in spring to break camp in Syracuse. He's still one of the top pitchers. I consider him, honestly, now the top pitching prospect behind McLean and Tong. I still believe in Jack Wenninger strongly. My understanding, too, from spring, he was throwing 95, 96, a little bit of 97 in spring games. My understanding, Jack Wenninger can start getting to 98 plus during the regular season of the minor leagues. Keep an eye on that. If he does, you'll know or have heard it first here, because that's my understanding. That could be a part of the plan for Jack Wenninger. Now, the guy who already throws 99 plus, Ryan Lambert, made the AAA roster out of camp. I would like to think he'll be the team's closer going forward, or bare minimum pitch in the eighth, ninth innings when he's structured to pitch. Everyone was excited about Ryan Lambert, probably feeling he should have made the team in Queens right off the bat. Understandable. But again, Ryan Lambert only has the AA experience. Let him get some time in AAA. He could be one of the first guys called up, because let's be honest, he'll be one of the first guys called up once he's ready. Some of the other guys, we saw Yoander Suarez pitch game 2 for Syracuse. He's been my guy I've been thinking about for, it feels like decades. I've been waiting for Yoander Suarez to kind of top off, which is what he's been kind to do. He's been struggling every time he got to the AAA level. And here we are in game 2. He has a lot of movement on all of his pitches, but he started to have some command issues, leading to a couple of this, that, walks, some hits, ended up with a couple of runs in his 3 2/3. That's my ongoing concern with Yoander Suarez, putting it all together. Can this be the year? And also be on the lookout for Yoander Suarez's fastball velocity. How hard can it truly get? Some of the other guys, veteran-wise, I'm happy that Carl Edwards Jr. is still with us. Really talented arm. I could still see him as a swingman, longman in the Mets organization. I know there was some talk in the offseason of him being signed as a starting pitcher. I still don't necessarily see that as a structure and a plan for Carl Edwards Jr. in Syracuse. I guess we'll wait and find out how things progress. But I much would prefer to see him as a 2-ish inning guy every week, as a role he can play in New York as needed. Some of the other guys, Jonathan Pentaro struggled a little bit in his first appearance. He's obviously about 28 years old now, has a lot of good stuff that hasn't been translating consistently at the pro level. But again, a guy like Jonathan Pentaro, when he's on, he's the kind of guy that can fill in again during the 2026 New York Mets season. The lefty who came out strong this week, Anderson Severino, throwing 96 to 98 as a lefty. You'll take that all day long. He has a bit of a wicked slider, I believe, as well. So he was pretty dominating. But he also had a bend but don't break 2 innings. In each inning, he allowed a hit and a walk without allowing runs because of the 4 Ks. Looked really, really strong overall. Relievers can be fickle. Again, he's a lefty. Severino's the kind of guy you're probably going to see during the 2026 season. As our Richard Lovelady, one way or another, it bounces back and forth. Maybe the next time he goes down, a guy like Severino is probably getting called up. We have our older-ish veteran catchers. Hayden Sanger continues to look really good, by the way, offensively for the first 2 games of the Syracuse Mets season. He's also already thrown out a batter, which is something that Hayden Sanger does. Onyx Vega currently is the backup. I'm thinking that's going to be an interchangeable roster spot. So I'm curious to see. Of course, the one guy missing, former top prospect Kevin Parada, is missing once again down in Double-A. I'm sure there's some disappointment there. The infield is a bit of a older veteran-ish infield with Christian Arroyo, who's been okay so far. Jose Rojas, who has a home run so far. Then, of course, you have the prospect Ryan Clifford, who has 2 extremely hard-hit balls, along with, I believe, 4 strikeouts in 6 at-bats. All you got to do is add in the walks, and that's what we're starting to continue to see from Ryan Clifford, who's an extremely talented guy when he puts bat on ball. He's also in 2 games already played first base and left field, so they're going to continue him, obviously, at both positions during this season. The other veterans, Jackson Clough, Yanni Hernandez, and then, of course, Ronnie Mauricio, who's done well in both games. He's also played short and third, I believe, looking good still defensively at both spots. He also has a hit as a right-handed hitter so far in the Syracuse Mets season. Ronnie Mauricio kind of is who he is. I understand a lot of the people giving him the quad A label, all of that stuff. Trade bait, trade value. I understand. I hear you guys. You know what? Comment in this show. Should he be traded? Is he a quad A guy? Is he still a future star in your mind? Because there are people who still believe he can put it all together. You guys tell me in the comments. I wanted to end this segment with some of the snubs respectfully. I want to point out what's going on here. There are some very, very talented prospects repeating Double-A. First, we'll start with the guy, A.J. Ewing, the star of Major League Spring Training, dropping all the way to Double-A. Even though he had limited experience at Double-A last season, I would have projected he might have repeated for some weeks. But because of that spring, I know it's a disappointment to see him down there. As far as the pitching, the Double-A roster is loaded because of guys like Jonathan Santucci, Will Watson, Zach Thornton. Could all 3 of them possibly be in Triple-A, especially with other organizations? My response, yes. I believe all 3 could have been pushed to Triple-A if they were with other organizations. So I consider that a bit of a snub for some of them. But again, these guys will get their time. I believe also a very, very big snub was Saul Garcia, I believe, dropping all the way to Double-A. My ongoing concerns with Saul Garcia, pitch command, could also possibly be the reason why he dropped to where he was at Double-A. Overall, there's a lot of talented arms in Double-A waiting, fighting to get their spot. They want to get to Syracuse, where, again, there's a veteran-ish lineup. Again, with the outfield, Melendez, Morabito, Pache, and Jaewon Bay look like the starting-ish outfielders. They're going to kind of – looks like they're already mixing and matching Morabito out with Bay for the first 2 games. Let's keep an eye on how often Nick Morabito plays. He's the 40-man guy. He should honestly be the first call-up even before a Pache or before a Melendez almost, depending on how Melendez now starts to do. He was like the hero at the beginning of spring, slowed down at the end. He's having a quiet start to the 2 games here. Let's keep an eye on that to see how soon he could possibly be called up. Thank you guys so much. I'll continue to give some game recaps on all of the minor leagues as often as I can. Please subscribe to the New York Mets Dove Report. I'll see you guys next time.